All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. Bishul mitzvot, especially coming out in the snow. Very challenging, but it says the fum tzara agra, which means according to the difficulty and the effort that's exerted, that's how much greater the reward is in Shamayim. So definitely this is up there with one of the harder things to come on a day like this, Bishul mitzvot. We'd like to dedicate today's learning for the refuah shlema of Yaakov Dov ben Pnina, Chaya Mushka bat Shter Nasara, Faivel Eliezer Alevi ben Dobra Bella, Yaakov ben Ethel, Yaakov Alevi ben Miriam, Yehuda Alevi ben Manya, Moshe Yonatan ben Tzipora, Arsan ben Amelia, Elon ben Shimshon, Shoshana bat Minet, who these were the individuals that were all wounded in the terror attack in Australia. May Hashem give them a complete and speedy recovery b'toch Shav Cholei Yisrael, and Leilui Nishmat those who unfortunately passed and are no longer with us. May the Neshamot go higher and higher in Gan Eden. We should hear only good news for all of Klal Yisrael. Okay. Now, this subject of today, of Bishul, I believe it was entitled 3 Types of Heat. If that was the title. So this is a very long and detailed subject, and there's no possible way that we're going to be able to cover all the aspects of Bishul today. It's an incredibly long subject, but I would like to just lay the groundwork, the foundations of Bishul and what it means, and some basic examples about Bishul on Shabbat. Be'ezrat Hashem, B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach. Let's begin. So, first of all, we have to understand in the construction of the Mishkan, it's important to be aware. Remember, we spoke about last week how all the laws that are forbidden on Shabbat, whatever the 39 halachot are on Shabbat, come from what was done in order to build the Mishkan, the construction of the Mishkan. That's how Rashi learns. And therefore, we have to ask, where is cooking in the Mishkan? The answer is when they prepared the dyes for the curtains of the Mishkan and for the wall. So they had to cook them. They had to actually cook them and make them into a sort of a color that could be used in order to color the curtains of the Mishkan. There were beautiful curtains on the Mishkan with lots of different colors, and they needed to first be cooked. It's important to be aware that cooking in its purest form, therefore, actually has nothing to do with food. By extension, we relate it to food, but in its purest form, in the sense of the construction of the Mishkan, it had nothing to do with food. For this reason, somebody once asked my wife, actually, she wanted to put on a hot plate on Shabbat some liquid with nice smells, like nice scents that will come out. It'll kind of evaporate into the air and not give a nice aroma. My wife told her she can't do it. She said, why not? It's not food. And it's the funniest thing. Cooking in the Mishkan had nothing to do with food, right? It had to do with the creation of dyes. So really, if we had to define cooking, let's define it in its simplest way. With respect to solids, it's one thing. With respect to liquids, it's something else. With respect to liquids, cooking means taking a cold liquid and heating it up. Heating it up to the point of what's called Yad Soledet Bo. Yad Soledet Bo means about 111 degrees Fahrenheit or 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are the generally accepted opinions. In other words, somewhere around there, if you take a cold liquid and you heat it up to that point, you have now transgressed the Yisur of Bishul, according to pretty much everybody midil raita. Okay? Everybody holds that that's an Yisur d'oraita. By a salad, it's a little bit different. Cooking by a salad is effective when you take a raw food and you cook it. You take it from being inedible and you make it edible. That's the Yisur of Bishul mid'oraita. Okay? So that's the simple idea. Now, it's important to be aware that this is done, again, in the way of the Mishkan. It was done through fire. It was not done through any other means. So cooking in a forbidden manner on Shabbat is when it is done through fire. If you cook something in the sunlight, for example, let's say I take a pot of water with an egg or a few eggs, and I put it up on top of the roof, and I manage to boil my eggs in such a way, not only is that not a problem, it's mutar lechatchila. It's perfectly allowed to cook in the sunlight. That's not an issue. That's called Bishul bechama. Chama means you can take something and cook it in the heat of the sun. No problem. The issue of cooking on Shabbat is when it's related to fire, or what's called the derivative of the fire. Toledot hachama. Toledot ha'ur, which means the derivative of the fire. For example, if let's say I have a pot of soup, and that pot of soup is boiling hot, and then I even take it off of the fire, and I take an egg and I put it inside that pot of soup, and the heat from the pot of soup cooks the egg, that's considered to be bishul d'oraita. Moreover, if let's say I don't put it in the egg, I keep it outside. I didn't put it in the pot, I keep it outside of the pot. I put it on the side, I put it on the side of the pot, and it roasts in that way from the heat of the fire that is contained within the walls of the pot. That's also bishul d'oraita, yes.
This is when you take it off already?
I took it off.
You can't put an egg in it.
Correct. You took it off the pot, you took it off of the fire, because that is called kli rishon. We're going to talk a lot about this as well. The item which is directly heated by the flame is called a kli rishon, the first vessel, meaning it was directly heated by the flame. So if you manage to cook something by means of contact with the kli rishon, whether it's in the kli rishon or outside of the kli rishon, that too is called bishul. That's called cooking, and it's forbidden midoraita. Okay, that's called toledot ha'ur, the derivative of the fire. It's not on the fire, but it's using heat which came from a fire to cook something. Clear? Okay. The interesting halacha that comes out of this is that Chazal prohibited something which gets heated by the sun. If you want to cook something heated by the sun, they said you can't do it in that manner because we're afraid that you'll come to cook when you cook something that's heated by the fire, which is forbidden midoraita. So for example, I can't take a frying pan, leave it up on top of the roof for 5 hours, boiling hot, and then crack an egg on it. You can't do that. That's called toledot ha-chama. You can't do that. Why? I thought sun is okay. It is okay. But that's when it's directly on the sun. Over here, it's heating up, it's cooking through something which was heated up through the sun. The rabbis made an isur against doing such a thing. Why? Because of the fact that you will confuse that with heating up with something that was heated through the fire, the derivative of the fire. So toledot hachama, because of toledot ha'ur. Was that clear? Yeah. Yes? So therefore that's out of the question. You can't take a frying pan, heat it up on the rooftop for 5 hours, and then crack an egg onto it. That's not an option. Okay?
You could put the frying pan in the rooftop with the egg?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how it heats up, no problem. Or you could boil water. You want to take water and have it boil by putting it in a bottle and putting it on the rooftop? No problem. That's direct. Okay. So that's important. That is very applicable in Israel, where a lot of their hot water comes from dut shemesh, which is this kind of container of water on the rooftop. It gets heated by the sunlight, and there's a whole question: can you take a shower with dut shemesh? It's a whole thing. We don't really have that so much over here, so let's not get into that. Okay, now, so we explained that between liquids and solids there is a very big difference, right? And we explained the difference between cooking with a fire or the derivative of a fire versus sunlight or not. By the way, there's a whole discussion about, you have to understand, sunlight is just an example of a non-fire. There's a whole discussion these days about hand warmers, for example, which is a chemical reaction. Is that considered to be a problem or not? Again, you're causing heat through a chemical reaction. So that falls into the category of a non-fire. That's called chama. So Rav Belsky alav shalom held it was allowed. However, there are others. Rav Belsky was my Rabbi alav shalom, but not everybody agreed to him, and there are some who are machmir not to use it unless you really need it. So let's say you're going on a long walk or something, you need a hand warmer, and you have an eruv, and you can carry. So then they would allow you to, crack it and makes the chemical reaction.
Can I ask them a side question? You
Sure.
know those packets of ice, like the ice packs?
Yeah.
Is that the same type of thing?
Isn't that where you just freeze it, put it in the freezer?
You shake it and then
crack it.
You crack it.
Or you don't need to crack it. Like there are
Shake it.
ones that
Or is
you
that
just
a
shake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cold, right? That's not creating
I'm
heat.
saying the chemical reaction.
Chemical reaction is not a problem. The problem is the fact that it's creating heat. So the question is, can you create heat in such a way? So mi'ikar adin, the truth is you really could, because there's no fire involved. It's a chemical reaction. Now, just to discuss toledot hachama, if let's say what they do is a lot of these meals that you take with you, these packaged meals, they'll give you a chemical reaction pack underneath. You squeeze it, it creates heat, and it heats up your meal. So the chemical reaction itself, that's the sunlight, that's fine. But now to heat up a meal with that is the derivative of the sun. You can't do that. Rav Belsky talks about that in his book, Shulchan Alevi. Anyway, nice little modern day application to this ancient halacha. Okay, fine. Now,
We have more days coming.
wow, amazing. Kol hakavod to all of you guys. Just drive safely, please. I myself also got into an accident on the way here. Not because of my fault. Some guy just didn't stop at a stop sign. I don't know why. Yeah. Gotta be careful in the snow. Okay, let's go. So, I believe when the title says 3 levels of heat, I think what we're talking about is the following. Like we said before, there is a concept with respect to liquid, that liquid, just by heating it up, you are over on Isur D'oraita Bishul, which means I have a cold liquid, I heat it up until 113 degrees Fahrenheit, let's say. Now, I just violated Bishul D'oraita. So can I take water and put it on a hot plate and cook it, heat it up like that? No, that's not allowed, of course, okay? Now, the chidush here is that too applies to a cold, pre-cooked liquid, okay? Now, I want to take this opportunity to explain a very important discussion. There's a question amongst the authorities, which is called Bishul achar Bishul. We know for a fact, when some solid has already been cooked, so then you cannot cook it anymore. Let's say it's a piece of chicken that has been cooked. To heat up that piece of chicken would not be to cook that chicken. Why is that so? Because that chicken has already been cooked. It's already cooked. So you can no longer further cook it. Obviously, if it hasn't been fully cooked and now you continue the cooking, that's called cooking. That's an issue. We're talking about a fully cooked piece of chicken, right? So to then reheat that would not be an act of cooking. Why? Because it has already been cooked. Okay, that's for solids. So en bishul achar bishul beyavish, which means once something has already been cooked, a dry item, a solid item, to then reheat it would not be considered cooking. Okay. By a liquid, however, there is a great argument amongst the authorities, amongst the Rishonim. Now I'm gonna, again, I try to make our learning as simple as possible, okay? But sometimes I have to explain the arguments amongst the rabbis in order to understand the full scope of the halacha that we're gonna learn in the short future, okay? So, bear with me. There's a great debate amongst the rabbis about a liquid that has already been cooked, okay? The question is, do we say that a liquid that has already been cooked is also something which is considered to be cooked, and therefore if you reheat it, then you haven't done anything because it has already gone through the process of cooking? So let's say you had a soup that has already gone through cooking. You've cooked it, it's already ready to go. The only thing is it's cold. It's in the fridge, it's cold. Can I put it in front of a fire, for example, by a fireplace, and let it heat up to the point that it becomes Yad Soledetbo, 113 degrees Fahrenheit? So there were great poskim who said that the answer to that question is yes. The Rambam held like that, the Rashba held like that, the Ran held like that. Many great authorities held that that's permissible to do. Okay. Then other great poskim argued on them. Rashi argued and held that that's forbidden. Can't do that. Not allowed to reheat a cold cooked liquid. And the Shulchan Aruch sides with that approach. And the Shulchan Aruch says that if you do such a thing, we consider that an act of Bishul Deoraita. Deoraita. So can we take a pot of soup out of the fridge and heat it up in any way? The answer to that question is no. That's forbidden. You're not allowed to do that on Shabbat. Why? Because that's taking something which is cold, and you're, like we said in the beginning, by liquids, we define cooking by taking a cold liquid and making it hot. Why? Even though it was cooked, we hold yesh bishul achar bishul belach. By liquids, there is cooking after cooking. So even though it has already been cooked once, to then reheat it is considered an act of cooking again. You have a question? Yeah.
How about something with gravy?
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. Gravy is a big topic. We'll get there. Let's hold off for a second. We'll get to that. Yes.
Before we get to that, whenever you use a cup for kli shlishi, when you're doing, let's say you fill it up and then you pour it for tea, and then let's say you want to use that same cup, but the water inside that's left over got cold already. Can you pour water on top of that if it's cooking?
And you want to do it again? You want to use it again as a kli
Yeah, like
shlishi?
if I want to fill up a cup, but I need to do it twice because this one's a smaller cup, let's say, and then the first time I pour it, and then I go to fill it up again, but the water inside already cooled down.
There's room to be lenient. Yes, you could be lenient. Yeah, yeah. We'll have to explain why. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. It's a good question that you're asking, but there is room to be lenient. But let's just stay on this for a second. So we're talking about the idea that yesh bishul achar bishul belach, which again, that question would definitely be applicable here. Aren't I cooking this again right now? That's a good question. So let's discuss though the idea that this is a machloket, which means that this is an argument. Even though we hold, what's the halacha? We hold that you're not allowed to reheat liquids on Shabbat. It's an isur d'oraita if you did it. We hold it's forbidden. That's 100% true. But I would like to discuss a couple of leniencies that come out because of the fact that this is an argument amongst the authorities. Okay? And that is, and the leniencies are as follows. Chacham Ovadia writes that if a person would like to heat up that very same soup on Shabbat, there are certain ways that it can be done. For example, let's say that you have a timer on your hot plate. Now again, I'm not saying everybody agrees to this. I just want you to be aware of the heter. Okay? So, Chacham Ovadia writes, if you have a hot plate which is presently off, it's off, but it's set to go on in 20 minutes, let's say, because you have a timer. Okay? So Chacham Ovadia writes, you can take that soup, put it on the hot plate, take it straight out the fridge, put it on the hot plate, and let the timer turn it on in 20 minutes. Why? Again, this is only for something that was once already cooked. You can't do that for water that was never cooked. You want to make hot water. You can't do that. Why is this an issue? Because the point being that when it comes to something which is already a dispute, meaning the Rambam and the Rashba and the Ran held that a Jew could do it himself, no problem. Do we hold like them? No, we do not hold like them. Okay, fine. But when it comes to doing it in a manner where all I did was put it on a hot plate, which is eventually down the road going to become hot, there Chacham Ovadia allows it to be done. Another.
Doesn't have to be 20 minutes before.
It doesn't have to be 20. The point is it's off right now. Just an example. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 4 minutes. The point is it's off presently. Good point.
What if it's turned on already, but it's not completely hot yet and it's still remaining?
Then you can't. Good point.
What was your question?
What if it's turned on already, but it didn't get hot yet. Then you can't do it anymore. It's on.
Is this for a blech or a hot plate?
It's for a hot plate we're talking about now. But the truth is, yeah, blech is on. The fire is on already. That's, yeah, a hot plate which is presently off. Okay, so that's one heter that comes up. Again, why? Because a cold, cooked liquid, there are those who anyway say you can heat it up. Do we hold like them? No, we hold it's asur d'oraita. But in cases where you have other reasons to be lenient, you have what to rely on. So therefore, the hot plate's off, it's going to turn on in 5 minutes. He allows you to put it there. Another important heter, which comes up because of this argument, is if, let's say, somebody did it without realizing he's not allowed to do it. Okay? Somebody did it without knowing that you're not supposed to do it. So we call Ma'aseh Shabbat. Ma'aseh Shabbat means somebody did an Isur Deoraita, and it was a sad thing that he did it. He didn't know that he's not supposed to do that, but it's done. Can you benefit from that on Shabbat, or do we say that this falls into the category of something that was forbidden to do on Shabbat, and therefore you are not allowed to benefit from it until after Shabbat? The answer to that question is that since this is a matter of dispute amongst the authorities, we allow you to benefit from that even on Shabbat. Why? Because regarding can you do it yourself or not, we say, oh wow, it's about you doing Yisur D'oraita, stay far away. But regarding the rabbinic rule that if it was done on Shabbat, you cannot benefit from that, to that we say that's what we call Safek Derabanan Nikula, which means you can rely on the other authorities who allow you to do it even the Chatchila regarding after the fact that it was done. Can I benefit? The answer is yes. Okay, so that's leniency number 2 that comes up with that. Leniency number 3. This one always takes people by surprise. Maran Achida, the great Chacham Yosef David Azulai, Chaim Yosef David Azulai, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, writes that when you have something like this, which is a matter of dispute amongst the authorities, you're allowed to ask a goy to do it, the chatchila. So let's say a person wants to heat up their liquid soup, whatever it is, gourmet sabzi, something very liquidy, right? Take it out of the fridge, put it on hot plate. Can you do it yourself? God forbid, Isur D'oraita, right? But being that it's a matter of dispute, amongst the Rishonim, so Maran Achida writes that you're allowed to ask a goy to go ahead and do it for you. So if you have a Gentile in your house, and that person is available to help you out, you can ask them to put it on the hot plate. Again, this is something that Chacham David Yosef writes in his book on asking goyim to do things. Chacham Vadia writes about it as well. So you have a leniency to ask a goy to take out your pot of soup and put it on a hot plate. However, you cannot ask them to put it on if it's not fully cooked. You cannot ask them to put it on if it's on an open fire or not on a hot plate. Only on a hot plate or a blech, where you're allowed to do that. Clear? What?
Could you do a chatchila?
You can ask the goy to do it. Yeah, he says it's the chatchila you can do it. It's an interesting heter. I don't know, this one usually takes everyone by surprise.
Without hinting, just straight
What?
up put it on for me, yeah?
Yeah.
So I can always do that, or it has to be a special circumstance?
No.
It has to be fully cooked though.
Yeah, it needs to be cooked. It needs to be cooked. I'll be honest with you, he writes it as long as it's ma'achal ben drusai. I'm not comfortable with that so much. I think that it should be 100% cooked. That's my take on it.
This is
Yeah.
before it turns on or after?
What?
This is before the blech turns on or after?
No, there's a blech that is presently on.
Then you can ask a guy to put it on for you?
Correct. Okay, again, why? Why? Let's say it was random water. Let's say it was water, and you want the guy to heat up water for you. Mutar or asur? Asur. Even if he did it, you can't even drink it. You can't benefit from it. The chidush here is that since it's already been cooked, and there are rishonim who allow you yourself to do it, which we disagree with them. We say you can't do it. We don't let you do that. But to ask the goy to do it, that we would be lenient. Yeah, Chacham David Yosef writes this in his book. Yeah.
When I heat up water to to, let's say, boiling point, and then after an hour, it's cold again.
Yeah.
It's like as if it was never cooked.
Yes.
So how is that considered an Bishul or Bishul? It's like the same. If it was soup, then you're cooking the vegetables
Beautiful.
inside and stuff like that. But
And that's
it's
why
just-
we agree with you. We say that you can't do that. That's correct. But to those who think that once it's cooked, it stays cooked forever, even though it cooled down, they would allow you to put it back on. We say we don't hold like them. But if you want to ask a goy, you could ask a goy. That's an interesting thing. Good question. Yes.
If let's say you have children cooking in the crock pot and you have it on a high temperature and you have in mind you want to put it on low, like right before Shabbat and
You
you forget.
forgot.
Can you have a boy do it for you? It switches from hot to low.
Not so simple. Not so simple. Let's get back to that. That's a little bit. Write it down, please, and I'll get back to you. B'ezras Hashem. Good question. Definitely, I don't think you could tell him to do that. I don't think you could tell him. That's for sure. But what if he does it anyway? That's a good question. Yeah.
What if you put something upside down and then you put the soup or whatever on top? Does it reach?
Okay.
So let us go there.
So the rule is, you are allowed to take a liquid that is cold and put it somewhere that it will heat up a little bit, as long as it's not going to reach the temperature of Yad Soledet,
Right.
which is 113 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're doing that and you know that it doesn't have a chance of reaching that temperature, and I want to make something clear, that's not that hot. 113 degrees Fahrenheit is not so hot. It's very likely that it will reach that. So you have to do what?
It's supposed to burn you if you put your finger in.
It doesn't have to burn mamash. Try it. Try it. See. No. I'm saying seriously. Take a look and see how much. If you have one of those little thermometers, see what 113 feels like. It's gonna be hot, but it's not like crazy.
So like a hot pot would probably make it reach that, even if it's on
Probably.
on top.
Probably, yeah.
Can you repeat your question?
The question was, can I take a pot, put it up on top of the hot plate, and then put the soup on top of it to kind of lower the intensity of the heat on it and to reheat it to a point that it's not the absolute. The answer is 100% sure. Of course you can.
Can I ask a
Right.
question?
But again, the rule is you can only leave a liquid close to a source of heat if you know for a fact that it will not reach Yad Soledet Bo. By a cold cooked liquid, you could do it provided that you're standing on top of it and making sure it doesn't reach that temperature, which is a harder ask from the person.
So you could do that if you're standing by it?
If you, again, by a cold cooked liquid that already was once cooked.
Right.
Not by something that's being cooked for the first, that potentially could be cooked for the first time.
So is that the same thing like on a black liquid? Let's say there's a flame on one side and you put a cooked liquid not on the flame but like next to it.
Yeah, but again, you're in the danger zone. When you do such a thing, you're in the danger zone because it's very likely to get hot,
Right.
and therefore you really shouldn't do that because it's like you're inches away from the fire. You know, it's not. Yeah.
Could you do the whole thing with the sun? Like warm up a pan and like put the already cooked liquid in a pot in the sun?
Oh, yeah. You could even put a non-cooked liquid in the sun.
Really?
Sure. Because when you heat through the sun, you don't have a problem, right? Very important. Okay. Yes.
So sorry, just to clarify, so putting like a soup that was already cooked on the black, thinking I'll take it off for sure in 10 minutes, let me just make
Don't
it
do it.
edible. Is it like a sour?
You
or
could,
like-
if you, again, if it reaches Yad Soledet Bo, you did Isur D'Oraita. That's the problem. You could, if you're willing to stand there and watch over it, right? So then theoretically you're allowed. But if you ask me, it's so easy to forget, especially when you're a mom with kids and there's diapers and there's this and there's a lot of things to do. It's just very easy to just forget, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you did an Isur D'Oraita. Who needs that? Just so, you know what I'm saying? It's technically allowed, but I wouldn't do it. Okay. Alright. So now, we've already gotten into the discussion about heating things on a hot plate. So, we've discussed the idea that if it's dry, then you can put it on the hot plate. If it's liquidy, then you cannot put it on the hot plate, right? Why? Because you cannot heat up cold liquids, right? We said there's a heter with a goy, there's a heter if it's off, there's a heter if somebody already did it, right? Discussed that. But if it's a question of you yourself putting on a liquidy item on the hot plate, the answer is no. Okay. Now here is an important question that was asked before. What about an item that has gravy on it? Okay, so it's important to be aware. I have heard from many different people some notion which I believe to be incorrect. What they say over is, if you look in the, I believe it's Yalkut Yosef, or maybe in Chacham Vadia's writing himself, which I believe it does say that, he writes the following language, which I believe has been misunderstood by a lot of people. He writes, if you have a cooked dish that's majority solids and minority liquids, then you could heat it up on a hot plate. Okay. And what people have taken that to mean, which I've heard this only in Great Neck, I haven't heard it anywhere else, but what people have taken that to mean is that what you could do is you could have a dish that's majority solids. Let's say you have I don't know, some kind of soup with lots of vegetables in it, or let's say it's a gourmet sabzi with lots of meat, right? So majority solid and minority liquid, meaning 51% meat, 49% liquid. A-okay, put it on the hot plate. I've heard this not once, not twice, not three times, and they're quoting Chacham Vadia. So I have your beautiful sefer called Or Halacha. He brings down multiple sources of Chacham Vadia himself and Chacham David that they say that this was never the intention of that psak. That was never the point. The point of that psak was, when you have a solid, you've got fish, you've got chicken, you've got meat, and there's, like it was said before, a little bit of gravy on the side that's kind of, you know, it's basically nullified to the meat. It's secondary to the meat. It's not some kind of puddle of liquid that is sitting there, right? That's a very clearly identifiable liquid. A gourmet sabzi has tons of liquid. Am I mistaken? No, it has tons of liquid, right? You cannot take that and put that up on a hot plate on Shabbat, even if it's minority. It's a clear puddle of liquid. That's forbidden. You have a little bit of liquid on the side, you know, a little something, little few drops here, there, something nullified to the solid. Then that's what was meant by majority solid, minority liquid.
Let's say it's congealed right now.
So I asked Chacham David that question myself. I said, what about something that's totally congealed? It's like a tray of chicken, and you know for a fact, if I put this on the hot plate, it's going to become liquidy. Mutar or asur? He said mutar. It's allowed.
And what if to put like...
Because it's all solid right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about like to like I don't know.
Ashkenazim, by the way, are not. They would not be allowed to do that. Yeah.
Let's say you want to put a meat, like a brisket with congealed liquid, and you put some, from a clean shlishi, you put some hot water on top, so that you make sure it doesn't burn once it does, like, so that...
From a kli shlishi.
on
When?
top.
While it
Before you put it on the wok.
you're putting water on the hot plate.
But it's clean shlishi.
I don't follow.
It doesn't become liquid. It's like a dot of, let's say, like, you just want to make sure that the liquid's not going to burn. The
Can't do
gravy's
that.
not going to burn.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that. That's taking a fresh, never before cooked liquid and putting it on a hot plate. And I'll tell you even more than that.
But what do you mean? It's a cliche. It's cooked.
Putting it on a hot plate. You're putting it on a source of heat.
But it's
The water is
but
gonna
the
be
water's
on
going to
the
go
water.
into the meat. It's not.
Asur, you can't do that. Not only that, I'll tell you even more than that. They even talk about heating up challahs on Shabbat that have frost on the top from the freezer. And say you want to do, and they say that that's a problem as well, because that frost, it's It's gonna cook. It's an interesting thing.
So then why could
Because that, again, that's never been cooked before. Yeah.
But it is cooked. The water came, let's say, from like the urn, and then you put it in a cliche sheet.
Okay. So let's get into that. Okay.
That's
I
my
want-
question.
I want to explain. It's the same thing. I want to explain. This is an important question. Okay. Let's talk about what Shulchan Aruch talks about. Here, Baruch Hashem, we got it. Very important to know this, guys. This is one of the halachot that Sephardim are more machmir than the Ashkenazim. Very interesting. Okay? And I think this is what we were talking about before about the 3 levels of heat. Let's take a look at this inside. Hamashkim baboker. Okay? Somebody wakes up in the morning and he sees that his food is it's getting burnt. He's afraid it's going to get even more burnt. So he gives you an option: lift it up, put it on top of another pot, and that's it. Okay? Now he says, and I know what you're going to say. Why can't I take some hot water and put it inside? Right? From a Kli Rishon even. He says, Yesh limchot beyad hanohagim le'atmin ba'od yom kumkum shel mayim chamim. There is an obligation to protest regarding those people who take a jug of boiling hot water and they enwrap it. They do hatmana before Shabbat, which you're allowed to do, and then v'notnim otam letoch hakdera b'Shabbat, and then they take that water and they put it inside of that Kli Rishon on Shabbat, kishetavshil mitztamek, when it's starting to become dry. He says, Shulchan Aruch says it's forbidden to do that. So Rabbeinu Yonah, the author of this halacha, is the reason he explains for this is because according to this opinion, as you pour from a Kli Rishon means that it's a boiling hot item. It could be a hot water urn. It could be a hot jug. As you're pouring in the air, the water cools off. Okay, and then when it goes into the cholent pot, it gets recooked, gets reheated. Okay, so you have now an act of bishul. Now again, it's a hard concept to understand because that water that's coming out is really, really, really hot. To say that it's getting recooked is a little bit of a stretch if you ask me personally, but I can tell you that I do notice that in the air it does cool off. I mean, I'm sure you notice that. Let's say you take a shower head, you bring it close to your head, it's hotter than if it's further away, right? It does cool off in the air to a certain extent. So Maran holds that if you do that, that's considered an act of bishul, even though the water has already been cooked. Okay? So you're not allowed to go to take water from an urn, which normally anyway you would be putting it into a kli sheni, right, into a cup, and then pour that hot water into the kli rishon. Now, Ashkenazim are lenient with this, okay? Ashkenazim are lenient, and they hold that so long as the water is still lukewarm, you could reheat it. So that would mean that if I were to then, it's lukewarm, I could then put it back into that cholent pot, and it's a-okay. But Maran held it's asur, and therefore for us it's asur. Possible solutions, let me get to in a second. Possible solutions are offered to this question, and they are as follows. One comes from Chacham Eliezer in Brooklyn, the Harari. He suggests if you manage to situate your urn directly above the cholent pot, and you connect a big straw around the spigot of the urn, and attach it to the cholent pot, and it goes in without getting the air around it, you've managed to solve the situation. Others give an option, which is that you can take one of those plastic bags, those cooking bags. I don't know if you're into plastic and cholent, whatever. You know, those plastic. So you can fill it up with water and put it in the cholent bag and pop it in the cholent pot, I meant to say, and pop it so the water goes into it to keep it.
Are you allowed to do that? You're not creating a kli
When?
when you pop the bag.
No, I'm destroying a kli. it was a kli, it held water, and I'm popping it and I'm killing it.
You're allowed to open the cover of the challah?
Again, Shabbat morning, it's already cooked. And it's cooked to the point that it's bad cooking to continue it. So therefore, I would be allowed to open and close, but it's a good thing they're asking. Okay, we had a bunch of questions. I want to get back to that in a second. Yes?
I don't understand how that's solving the problem, either of them, because with the straw and with the bag, it's still gonna cool off a little bit before it goes, I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea is it's not being exposed to the air. That's the way the Rabbeinu Yonah says it's a problem. When it's exposed to the air, it cools off. So what his solution is, if I manage to,
So it's halakhically not getting colder, but realistically it is.
again, to a certain degree, I mean, it's really hot as is anyway from a hot water urn. But to alleviate the concern of the air, we've alleviated the concern of the air with the straw. I mean, it has to be I guess a larger straw that can go around it. Yeah.
You said Ashkenazim don't hold of gravy going onto the then. So then why would it be that they're allowed to reheat? Cook? Right, so why would they do reheating of liquid then?
They hold, the Ramah writes that as long as it's lukewarm, it's allowed to be reheated. It's allowed to get heated again. Sorry, yeah.
Is this only for Kli Bishul, or can you let's say pour it in a bowl and then add hot water to the bowl?
Excellent question. That's another beautiful solution, right? If you take the chalent out of the chalent pot, dish it into a bowl, and now you put water into it, that's perfectly fine, because we didn't even get to this yet, but it's important to know that the Shulchan Aruch says, Kli sheni eino mivashel. A second vessel does not cook.
Yeah, but some people hold the challah is cooking.
What?
That the challah is still so hot that you can't. Maybe that's Ashkenazim.
Yeah, that's the Marshal holds like that according to, that as long as it's a thick chalent and it's still very, very hot, it still has the ability to cook, even if it's a kli sheni. But with us, what we could, the added benefit, if you use a ladle to dish out the chalent, so that, according to some, will cause it to be even a kli shlishi already, a third vessel, which is much better, unless you're letting the ladle sit in there for a long time. Yeah.
If you have a chalent in the chalent pot and you feel like the degree's too high, can you pick that up and put it on the blech? On the hot plate? Not, or,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Continuing that question, if you take it off the children's or whatever it's called, the crock pot, and you put it on the countertop, but you didn't put it in another bowl. It's still sitting in the pot of the crock pot, but it's out of the element of heat. And then can you add hot water to that?
No.
No.
Because it's a kli rishon, and a kli rishon has the power to cook even off of the fire, as long as it's still hot. Yeah. Okay. So getting back to your point about covering a pot, this is an important rule to be aware of as well. There are certain things, certain actions that can be done which equal cooking, even though it doesn't seem like it. For example, let's say it's Friday night, okay, and you put up your chalent at 3 p.m. So now it's 6 p.m., 7 p.m. How long has the chalent been cooking for? 4 hours. What do you say? Is it cooked or not?
No.
Okay. What if it was at 1 p.m. that you put it up? Was it cooked or not? What? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say it was on high.
That's what's in there.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah? Okay. So let's imagine there's a nice young guy. You know what? Let me sneak a bite of this chalent before the meal of Shabbat day. Okay? To his frustration, he takes a bite of the chalent, and the beans are still not totally cooked, and the barley is still a little crunchy, not gishmak, right? He's got an issue. So now he says, okay, oh well, I tried, didn't work out. What's he gonna do? Takes the lid and covers the chalent pot. Tomorrow it'll be ready. Oops, big mistake. Why? Because now he did what's called mikarev bishul. The act of putting the lid on a chalent pot that is not cooked is going to cause the cooking to become quicker. Can't do that. So if you are taking the risk of taking the lid off the chalent pot on Friday night, maybe yeah, maybe no, you have a potential problem here. If it's cooked, tend to cover it, okay, no problem. It was already cooked. I'm not doing anything more by adding the lid. Another important rule, which is considered to be like this, is called megis. Megis means stirring the pot. Stirring the pot is also considered mekarev bishul. If the pot is not fully cooked and you stir it up while it's on the element, for sure that's the halacha. But even if, let's say, it's off and you go and you stir it all up like that intentionally, that could be a problem of megis, which is that you are mekarev the bishul. You're taking, well, really, to be honest, it's really more like when it's on the fire. On the fire meaning you're stirring it up and you're bringing certain parts that are not cooked closer to the heating element and causing them to be cooked. So that's a problem as well. So, okay. Yes.
I put my children, I started at 8 in the morning.
Okay.
By Shabbos time, the grandchildren want to have children before the fathers come home from shul. Can they take
Shabbat morning, you're saying?
At
Friday night?
Can they take children?
So is it fully cooked?
It's fully cooked.
Yep.
Okay, does it need to be taken out of the
Okay,
oven?
so let's discuss this. So now, the simple answer is yes.
Yes,
What?
which one?
Yes, that you're supposed to take it out. Okay? Why should you take it out? Some poskim say that while it's on the element, the heating element, you cannot stir it up at all. At all. Definitely Ashkenazim hold like that for a fact. But Chacham Ovadia, if I'm not mistaken, allows you to take, while it's still on, from the top. From the top, as long as you're not digging around, right? But practice has shown us that people like to dig for a piece of meat, for a piece of this, a potato, or this or that, and therefore the best option is to take it out of the heating element, and then you could do what you want to do. That would be the best thing.
And then can you put it back?
What?
Can you put it back?
Can you put it back? Is B'ezras Hashem, the answer is yes, under certain conditions, which B'ezras Hashem will learn in a couple of weeks. I saw that was on the menu too. Yes.
Okay, so if it's out of the element, no problem closing it, right?
What?
No problem closing the pot if it's out of the element, outside the black, the hot pot.
If it's only if it's fully cooked.
Right. Okay, but then no, this is my question actually. Like, I make children to Shabbat, and my kids like it at the beginning of cooking when it's still like a soup. For some reason, they don't like it when it's
They like it watery. Okay.
They like it soupy, so they like it only on Friday night when
Okay.
and it's technically not cooked because like the beans, like the barley is cooked, but the beans are still like I wouldn't like to eat it, but they like it like that.
Right.
I also
Make two chalets.
But is that
Make one
considered cooked?
What?
Is it considered cooked based off of what like society goes by, or what you like?
If you're crunching in the bean, it's not cooked.
No, it's like mushy, but it's
Cooked
not
is edible or
fully
cooked
like.
is cooked?
But the potatoes
So
are
remember,
still-
we spoke about this last week. The idea that there's ma'achal ben drusai, which is edible, right? And then there's mevushal kol tzorko, which means it's fully cooked. You cannot on Shabbat bring something that's ma'achal ben drusai to fully cooked. That you cannot do because that's an act of cooking. It's true, it was edible. That's true, but you are bringing it to the next step of bishul. You can't do that. So therefore,
Even if I take it out of the hot plata to do this for my kids, it's still a problem. Like if it's not fully cooked.
you have to be. It's fine if they take it off and they enjoy it, but then to put it back on, how are you going to do that?
What if they're digging around? It's mixing. No?
When it's off, it would be okay. Yeah, that's why I said before. I corrected myself. It's only when it's off. What?
It's not a solution because you can't put it back on, so you're stuck with that
Okay,
chop.
that was my
That's what I'm saying. Make two. make one for them and one for everybody
You have
else.
some before Shabbat.
Okay. So we spoke about all that. We have a lot more to talk about this, but I gotta go. So, sorry. We're gonna stop over here for today. Hashem, we continue on Sunday.